Good morning, Second Bridge. This is First Lieutenant Aguilar. Apologies for the tardiness of this plan. I was waiting for some last minute information. Still waiting on some stuff, but I'll get you everything I have right now. So essentially, here's your brief for our BA this upcoming weekend at JBLM. We'll just go through all the main days. We'll mostly focus on the 24th, which is the main mission day, where we'll actually be doing operations and training on the water. And then, yeah, I'll just go through each of the days. Main idea, as you can see as the mission statement, is that we're going to be conducting wet gap crossing training, and the big emphasis is going to be on cross training. So mission success, at least in my eyes, with one or two things. Number one, we have really effective cross training, so everyone gets hands on, or almost everyone gets hands on all the different crews or all the different task types that are involved in the construction of our IRB, or just in IRB operations in totality. The plan complements that mission set. And then number two, I know this is the thing that a lot of people are going to be kind of not worried about, but very conscious of, is there's going to be a lot of leadership there. Very important generals, very important sergeant majors, the general of the Army Reserves, also our battalion commander is going to be there, our brigade commander is going to be there. So a lot of big names, a lot of big brass. I don't want you to be overly concerned about that. Do keep in mind they'll probably only be there for about an hour. At least the really high up people will only be there for about an hour. The main idea is that we get good cross training. But if they do come up and try to talk to you, I would make sure that I'm able to effectively explain essentially the importance of 671st and MRBC operations, because that's the main thing that's important. They're resources for us. They can allocate us funding, they can allocate us training, they can allocate us resources, right? So being able to kind of advocate for yourself, your mission set, and the 671st as a whole, no matter what your rank is important for that second aspect of kind of, I don't know, talking with brass. So yeah, don't just discount it. Like, I get that it's going to be a bit of a, what do they call it, horse and pony or something, like dog and pony show. Yeah, to an extent it is, but more focus on, hey, we're trying to get resources, help them understand our mission, because they don't necessarily understand it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about for brass. Moving on. Okay, so basically on the 23rd, we have an earlier sign in at 06. Right after sign in, we're going to be doing height weight. You just click on this link. I'll let it load real quick. Ta-da, these are the people that need to do height weight. So yeah, you're just going to get height weighted. Make sure you show up in PTs. If that's you, obviously bring a change of clothes, because you have to do missions afterwards, right? There's going to be a leader sync meeting after that, and then we're going to do first formation at 6:30. The reason why it's pushed back a little bit is because we have bus. A bus is going to get the people that aren't a part of the convoy, and that is going to depart at 07:30. So there's going to be a small group of people who are going to be leaving a little bit earlier. The convoy safety brief will be at 8:45 to SP at 09 with 30-minute increments between serials. I still don't have all the serials from the other platoons, so yeah, that will come when it comes, I guess. And then upon arrival to JBLM, there's a couple things that we have to do. Obviously, bivouac operations, so kind of setting up. It's important to note that we're not going to be bivouacking in our normal area right by the lake. We're going to be bivouacking where battalion was 2 years ago at JBLM. So if you can look at my little handy dandy diagram over here that they shared with us 2 years ago, here's where Lake Sequalichu is. And we were bivouacking kind of like here, if you can see my arrow. But now we're going to be in the northeast portion of the North Fort, and we're going to be camping out in AO Prime, is where we're going to be. So yep, there's that. We'll stage our VIX in the staging area as designated here. But yep, so once we arrive, we're going to do bivouac operations to set up. There's going to be a small contingent that's going to be doing the commander inventory. We'll decide who those people are going to be a little bit later. But yeah, it's pretty important because not only are you going to be working with Captain Brixey, but also the new commander. And then also finally a rock walk. I'll get into that why and how that kind of works, but basically we're going to be divided into unique crews for our IRB mission to ensure cross training and cycling, which I'll talk about in a bit, but I'll just get there later. Okay. And then finally we have the Courage DFAC. It's going to be open from 1700 to 1930. I have a pin right here to figure out how to get there, and then the address is on it as well. It's just hyperlinked. And then finally, for this day, CWST has not been confirmed right now because the pool has not been reserved. There's like a problem with the pool or something like that. So hopefully that stands. But right now, the hours and the pool status is a no-go, but that can change. So yeah, there's that. We're going to be rolling 11 CBTs, 1 LMTV, 3 bays, 3 ramps, 4 boats, and 1 flat rack. I will show you the convoy manifest. Like, I won't brief it to you, but I'll have it hyperlinked here. I just have to make one more edit to it. And then 4 radios, at least for our convoy, we're going to have 1 radio in the front and 1 radio in the back vehicle and use that as primary modes of communication. Convoy Commander Sergeant Lund. Bivouac Site Commander will be Sergeant First Class Brents. If we end up doing a wet gap recon class, which I don't know, it's going to be Sergeant Dubois. Yeah, cool. Next up is the main mission. I want to spend most of my time here. Essentially, we got to put a raft in the water by 10:30, and we're going to begin some rotational training. It'll make more sense when I get to the next area, but I'll just kind of give you the macro view of it. So essentially, we're going to have a couple vehicles on ground. Our EEP is going to be right at the slip site, just so we can kind of alleviate, a lot of travel time because it's more about cross coordination or cross training. We'll have the Kazovac vehicle parked up here, recovery asset over in the north part kind of the slip, and then also the RTO CBT out of the way so we can have easy communications. But yeah, essentially, we got to wake up kind of early, make sure that we do pre-comet checks and move to the slip because we're not at the slip site anymore. So it'll actually be not like a massive drive. It's just across port, but we'll do a ground and safety brief at 07. The people who are part of the mass medical first rotation, that will be decided soon. And I know that there's been some texting with Sergeant Brents trying to finalize who those names are. But we'll definitely figure out the night before who's going to be going to the mass medical for the first rotation. But then following that, so this is going to be a separate group from the group that goes down to the slip initially to kind of begin the training because we will be getting picked up from the slip. The mass medical people will be getting picked up from the bivouac site to do the mass medical. And we're probably going to be going in groups of 3 or 4 depending. A lot of internal transportation, if it's not by tactical vehicles, will be by a bus. So anyways, after the ground and safety brief, there'll also be the 6-bay raft build. So about 7:15 to 10:30, taking our time, being deliberate, making sure it's safe to make sure that we have a raft in the water. After that, we're going to be beginning our rotations and then kind of planning around, unfortunately, right, a little bit, the NCO induction ceremony, retirement ceremony, which is, that's good and all, but that's also the anticipated time that the brass is going to arrive. And one of the big asks they've asked us to do is make sure that we have a raft already in the water. I know I said 10:30, and we don't have to have it ready until 12:30. And this is a bit mislabeled, but I do want us to begin some of our rotational training prior to that to make sure we're able to get off the water a little bit earlier so that we can hit the DFAC hours on time. But yeah, that's basically everything. OIC is going to be me. N2IC is going to be Sergeant Brents. RSO is going to be Sergeant Bry, which we might have to change due to the fact that I had to kind of scramble the rosters for the groups. That's okay. Medical will be Specialist Sandoval. RTO will be Cadet Aronia. The recovery asset, N2IC, will probably be, I think, Dean is what First Bridge Lieutenant Hakala has said. Additionally, there will be kind of emergency contingency people for each of these things due to the fact that many people will have to go to mass medical sometime throughout the day. Okay, so this is the actual better version of the timeline. So we got sunrise at 07, sunset at 17:45. So I want to work within light hours. That's why we're trying to show up to the site at 07 so we can have the ground safety brief when the light's coming out, and then starting the raft build a little bit after that so we have some working daylight. Like I said, we have our 2 rotations of training prior to the induction ceremony. Additionally, there will be a sling load equipment insertion, which will be done primarily by First Bridge. I know it's mislabeled, sorry. It says Sergeant Ditch, but I've decided to reallocate Sergeant Ditch. I'll fix that afterwards. For a First Bridge person, 3rd rotation refresher training. We'll have a little bit of extra time for remedial training and then equipment recovery to follow to hopefully get off the water around 16:30-ish. So here are the groups. So if you look at this, you can kind of tell there are a couple of elements. First off, there are site leaders. Basically, think of these as the crew chiefs and teachers. So each one has two. The boats are kind of unique, which I'll talk about. But essentially, they're the ones who are firstly, initially responsible for completing that mission of the IRB operation when we put the bridge in the water. But then, secondly, once the 6 bay is in the water, they'll be leading instructional trainings for groups that cycle through their station to kind of teach them the key aspects and give them hands-on training of that specific task. So, for example, I'll just kind of walk through a very simple example. Staff Sergeant Tran and Sergeant Jarrell are going to be the site leaders of EEP. So they'll be in charge of the EEP operations for the boat build. This will be their people, as well as 3 people from First Bridge, as well as the build crew, because they won't have anything to build quite yet until they have to build stuff, to set up and get all the things in the water and do EEP operations to make sure that raft is built by 10:30. After that, Group A is going to cycle to Group B, and Group D will cycle to Group A. You kind of see how it works, like A to B, B to C, C to D, D to A. And then they, once the bridge is actually in the water, they will lead an EEP refresher class for this new Group D. Now, with that being said, there's also the task of the group leader, which you see there is a NCO or a cadet in charge of each of these groups, and they will be responsible for basically, I have it listed, but kind of accountability and communication and making sure all their people are good to go in the trainings. So they'll be kind of the main NCO in charge of the group, but in terms of the site, there will be a separate site leader, which is two-parted, just in case they are a part of the mass medical, which is why I made 2 per. For the boats, they have 4, and the reason that is because we're going to have 4 boats operating in the water, and we need like a trained boat operator on each of those boats. So like, yes, everyone's going to get time on the boat practicing, operating the boat, to the extent that these boat operators feel comfortable with them getting hands-on training, but there does need to be a trained boat operator on the water at all times. So, yep. I kind of break it down a little bit more just for time's sake. I'll just let you pause it and kind of read it through. But yeah, so site leaders, the things I didn't really talk about. Obviously, 10:30, make sure that it's in the water. The 6 bay, plan and instruct 1 hour long refresher trainings. You're going to be working with each group at least once, so kind of have a good game plan on what you want to train them on. That's important to your crew related task. Let me know if there are any issues throughout the day. You're gonna have a walkie-talkie. Big thing is on the Friday, you're gonna do a rock walk with your first assigned group. So for example, like if you're launch, you're gonna be Sergeant Torgerson or Specialist Chibanasu, or both of you are gonna work with these people and kind of explain with a rock walk how you're gonna accomplish the task of building the bridge by 10:30 the next day. Oops, wrong way. And then coordinating with other site leaders to ensure rotations go smoothly. Be like, hey, my A leader, my people are done. Are you ready to receive B group? And they'll be like, yeah, and just send them over. We'll all have walkies again, like I said. Group leaders maintain accountability and open lines of communication. Be a model student. Make decisions for your group during trainings when necessary. Also an AAR report at the end of training. Other missions that are going to be going on is sling load. I really haven't gotten too much information about that mission. We're going to be giving that to First Bridge, 1 NCO and 2 soldiers. Maintenance mission, Sergeant Key will be working on that with 1 personnel, potentially from First Bridge, and then a CBT from First Bridge, and then the commander inventories. I'm not sure if that's bleeding into Saturday as well, but we know for Friday they're approximating about 6 people are going to be needed for that. That can change. And then we wrap it all up by coming home. We'll head back home at around 07 or around 08 is our anticipated SP time, and then doing the normal stuff we do to get back home. Big thing is, prior to this, kind of thinking of back planning. Whoever, I won't say their names because this is like public information, I guess, but whoever did the unsats or whichever section was responsible for the unsats, it's just on the whiteboard. You'll see it when you walk into our office. You're going to be responsible for the same unsat. It's going to be kind of SOP. But yeah, same idea. Convoy Commander Sergeant Lund again. Assistant Convoy Commander Padilla. Bus Serial Cadet Aronia. Nothing crazy. One thing, well, yeah, that's it. That's everything. Please let me know if you have any questions. Sorry for the rush. Have a good one.